You're on top of me. That's interesting.
You
Pretty much. Oh, no. And no. Oh, there we go. That's better.
can't say that to the internet. I'm gonna have to make you sign an NDA after you, good sir, do introductions.
Yeah, this would be like a cold open kind of thing, really. Anyway,
Oh,
Voice. Let's go. Voice FM.
welcome along to another episode of Disability Life. And I'm joined today by someone that lives in Birmingham, actually. Let's just hope their beans aren't outside hoarding the streets like it is on the news at the moment. But I'm joined by Jamie Bridgman. Welcome along, Jamie.
hello, how are you doing?
Doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad actually. Nice weather outside. It's a good day.
It is, which is very unlikely us, isn't it, really?
Yeah, very uncommon in England to actually be heading towards summer and it be warm. Maybe the world's ending. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah. So, let's get started. So, you're obviously it's cerebral palsy.
Yes.
Is that the only one you've got?
Yes. I'm not a collector. I'm just the one.
Good, that's fine. And so tell me a bit about your early life growing up.
Not too much to say. Very normal life. What to me
What's
is normal.
normal for you, Jamie?
Normal anyway. Nothing that any other kid wouldn't have done. I have my favorite toys and TV shows, and occasionally we went to the doctors for Botox injections, and I didn't really understand what they did, and sometimes we'd visit a physiotherapist, but I'd kind of that was just life. I never really questioned it
So,
too much. I sort of didn't really notice my disability, I suppose, until I hit about primary school age, and then I was like, oh, I may be a tad different because there's like football going on over there, but I can't play. Well, I'd make a very good corner flag, but I think that's about it. But yeah, it was normal, Parents were together, it was a strong supported unit. We struggled a bit here and there, but it was it was neither end of the scale. I wasn't richy rich with a gold toilet and everything else, but it wasn't absolute poverty. It was just, regular.
well, so by that description, you've so you were diagnosed with palsy when you were born. Then you were born premature.
Uh, I was a week late.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to move apparently, and then from what I get told, obviously, because I've only been
Yeah.
told about how my diagnosis came about from family. So how much of it is exactly true is either here nor there. But what I've been told anyway is when I was about two, when they sort of expected me to start sort of taking my first steps, they started to notice I wasn't at the same place my peers were. I wasn't, I wasn't walking like other 2 year olds were starting to. My feet, rather than pointing straight out, were bending in at an angle. And I think from what I remember the story being, my nan said to my mum, I don't think something's right there. You should really take him to the doctor and express your concerns. And mum took me to the doctor. The doctor did whatever the doctor did, ran his tests or had a look at me. And eventually it was the diagnosis that I've got cerebral palsy, spastic diplegia, to be specific.
At that point, you were not necessarily walking, but you. So, at what point then did you get a wheelchair? You adapted house, what was the sort of going on from there?
So for a while it was a bit of a struggle. Sort of back then in the early 2000s, there was nowhere near as much help as it is now. Like, disabled people weren't out there in the world, and they weren't portrayed on TV, and the welfare of disabled people wasn't on the top of every sort of government party's lists and everything. So it was kind of we my mum was in a flat at the time. uh she'd already had my sister because my sister's 6 years older than me.
Right.
So a flat, and we got the diagnosis, and my mum obviously petitioned to the council. We're like, if he's going to obviously need a wheelchair, we're going to need a bigger place. And she was apparently phoning, promised to get phone calls back, which, as you know how the council works, you never get a phone call back when they promise to give you a phone call back. And I think in the end, again, this was a story, was what was told to me as I got older, because I was still only very, very young at the time. She went to the council offices uh, with me in my pram and refused to move until we got seen, and also threatened to go to the papers about the way that we were being treated and the way she was being sort of fobbed off left, right, and centre. And in around 2004, I remember it very specifically because it was the year Green Day put out American Idiot. Well, I don't remember it offhand, but I remember it now as the year that happened. Was the year we got the house that I spent the rest of my life up until I moved out. So from about 3, 4 years old up until 18, and it was your sort of standard a disability adapted house, ramp out the front, wooden doorways, through floor lift that took it from the downstairs up into my bedroom. Originally, it was a shower, but eventually we had a bath put in because uh, anybody that would deny my mum a bath woe betide anybody that stands in her way. That woman loves a bath. But yeah, that was how that came out.
And the wheelchair, were you always in a manual wheelchair?
Uh, well, it started out. I think my first chair was a manual chair, but it wasn't one that I could uh self-propel because it wasn't the big wheels
Oh,
yet. Yeah, so I think the first one I pushed about, I think I may have had sort of the second chair. I think was manual at some point at primary school age. I couldn't put an exact age on it because a lot of life has happened and I've been to sleep since then. But I have had one electric chair that I don't know. I think on the whole, I just prefer manual chairs. I still, unlike many people with cerebral palsy, because there's all different, obviously, types of cerebral palsy, and a lot of them,
yeah.
there's restricted limb movement across the board, but I'm fortunate enough to have the use of my arms. It is only my legs, so I prefer to be able to go everywhere under my own steam and not have to. Well, I suppose the life that I live being a musician, which I'm sure we'll probably get on to at some point, but having to go to performing quite small, nowhere near at all accessible venues and stuff, trying to get a rather large electric chair around wouldn't be very feasible. And if I have a manual chair, I don't have to worry about that manual chair running out of battery, or the motor giving out halfway up a hill or anything like that. So I very quickly found that manual chairs are the chair for me.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. So, your singing and musical influences. Um, just give us a taste of what kind of music do you like, and then what kind of stuff do you do? Just briefly. We'll touch on
Uh,
more later on, though.
well, very, very different versions of me through my life because teenage me would have said if it doesn't contain anyone screaming, then it's not worth listening to. My teenage years were spent listening to a lot of Black Veil Brides, Asking Alexandria, that alternative stuff, but I have a very broad spectrum that I denied for a very long time in my teenage years until I got to uni. Because I studied music at uni. I did a 3 year songwriting course, and that kind of opened up to like you can like many different forms of music. You don't just have to pick one, and that's the hill that you die on. You can like a plethora of things. But I was very fortunate enough to have a lot of uncles that were all sort of very nicely into different but conjoining eras of music. Like I have one uncle that likes 20s and 30s blues music. I like one uncle that likes 50s and 60s doo-wop music. I've got one uncle that likes 70s and 80s. So you kind of your cast of Live Aid, your Queens, your Ultravoxes, your Brian Ferries, that kind of stuff. And then of course I've got mums and nans and aunties that are into your 90s kind of, Cyndi Lauper and all that kind of Madonna and your cheesy 90s stuff. And then my dad, who is also a musician, my dad's a drummer, he got me into what could, as much as it hurts my heart to say what's classed nowadays as dad rock. Oh, yeah, your Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, all those kind of bands. And then obviously as I grew older, I got my own taste. Like I'm a massive fan of Green Day, seeing a Green Day live performance. Well, I wasn't there, but sort of watching it on the computer was the aha moment of like, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to do that. And then many other things. Right now, I'm a big Sleep Token fan. I'm enjoying the new stuff that's coming out there. Broad spectrum. How long is a piece of string? Through uni, I'm working with different people that like to create different genres of music and having to put forward ideas in listening sessions and stuff, or be in the studio, kind of in a producer role. It's opened me up to, I see the good points in all genres of music now as to where I was as a teenager, I suppose.
Nice. Um, so going back a bit. School, college, university, all of that. How was it? Was it all mainstream schools? I'm assuming.
Yeah, so primary school was a mainstream school. I went to a primary school called St Cuthbert's Catholic Primary School. Uh, which yeah, we won't get into religion. We're not doing that today. That's another podcast for another time. But that's where I went for primary school, and
I'll get back to that one. Yeah.
it was not very far from my house at the time. My mum didn't drive yet, so it was kind of something that was in walking distance when I started at the school. The school were actually very
Walking distance.
accommodating. Well, not walking distance from me, but
No,
get
kind of, sorry.
yeah. No, well done. I didn't spot that well. But yeah, the school were very accommodating. Originally, they didn't have any sort of ramps or anything of any kind. But for me, I think I'm right in saying I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying I was one of, if not the first, disabled students that the school had ever had. So they took the time to put ramps in, and they assigned me a TA, and I never really felt excluded from anything. They always sort of found a way to make me a part of everything. And I had a great relationship with my TA. She was a lovely lady, Miss Hart. If you happen to be watching anywhere in any way, shape, or form, thank you very much for everything you did. A lot of obviously important life lessons learned, sort of learning a bit more about what my disability was at that age, going through the ring of emotions. There was the sadness of, why I can't do what the other kids are doing. Uh, probably a little bit of anger at some point of like, why does this have to be me? And then, the acceptance of, okay, I'm in a chair, but it's not the end of my life. It doesn't have to define me. It doesn't define me. It's not going to stop me from doing anything that I want to accomplish in life. It's just I've got to put on my big brain, and sometimes when adaptions or help isn't there, I have to figure out that adaption. I have to be that help. And it started from there, really. It started from primary school, from having those conversations with the school, from being with a brilliant TA like Miss Hart was to teach me sort of little things and coping mechanisms and ways I could get round stuff. But yeah, it was great. And then secondary school, it was half and half. It was half able-bodied students and half disabled students. And that was another thing of like, because my mum was never sort of part of any like parenting classes to try and, oh, so your child's disabled, come along to this talk, and we'll fit. She was never a part of that, because my mum, and me by extension, I think, is not a person that likes to get together in a sports hall and sit round in a circle and share an interesting fact about yourself and kind of bare your vulnerabilities. That's not something my family does. We find a way to
Rock solid centre.
yeah. And so, of course, because my mum never did that, I never did that either. So I was I was the only disabled person I knew. And then I went to secondary school, and there were all these other people in wheelchairs, and it's like, oh wow, okay, well, I'm not on my own, but it's another level of, okay, now I'm interacting with other disabled people, and oh, that person, has the same problems I do, and oh, I had that problem, but the way I got round it was, and those avenues of conversation were opened up, and I was able to impart some tips and tricks, and they told me things that I hadn't considered and things I haven't tried. And again, like most of my life, right up until as we're speaking this moment, nothing absolutely crazy has ever happened. It's always been just regular. Primary school was primary school. I did a lot of running about and a lot of playing, and it got to my SATs, and I did reasonably well. And I went to secondary school, and I was a teenager with hormones, and I got spotty, and I started listening to very heavy music and thought my parents were
Thank
really
God for that.
embarrassing. Maybe skipped doing homework a couple of times, but nothing out of the ordinary, and got through secondary school. And there was some teachers that were really important for me. There were times, where my mental health would struggle for many different reasons, but there were teachers there who kind of became confidants, and I was able to, share things with them, and they were able to help me or get me the right help from whatever channel that may be. And again, for all of those teachers, I thank them for everything they did. They're part of why I'm the person I am today, and got to the end of school. That was Hall Green Secondary School for anybody playing at home. And then college, I went to Southern City College in Digbeth.
It
Uh,
did.
and
E-Tech. I
I,
did the extended diploma, South and City College.
you've done your homework.
I've done my research. That's the whole point of being a journalist. You wouldn't have expected anything else from me, Jamie.
Well done. Please don't tell me you've got my bank statements or my internet search history on there.
Well, I'll do that in a minute. Um, no, yes. The BTEC level three. So were you always destined to go into music? That was your sole focus.
Yeah, it really was. From the time I was little, well, like I said earlier, my dad's a drummer and he was always in bands, so I always experienced the whole, oh, dad's going off to band practice now, and kind of, what's band practice? Oh, dad goes and plays music, he plays the drum. Like, and listen to music and music that was around me. I was fortunate enough to have been exposed to a lot of different kinds of music. There were countless evenings where in my house the sort of dining room area wasn't really a dining room, because we were a kind of dinner on laps in front of the telly family rather than sit round the dining table family. So the dining room became my dad's studio. That was where his computers were, and his CDs were, and his guitars were, and his recording equipment was. And he had, I think he still has it to this day. He had a 8-track Roland recording desk that runs off floppy disks. No, not floppy disks, zip disks. That I think he still has. That, and it was always, in the evening you'd go in there and he'd be listening to something. It'd be like, oh, what's this, Dad? Oh, it's Pink Floyd. It's, the Wall, the live DVD, and I got, the light show and the performance, and even as a young child, it had me hooked. It's wow. There's all these lights and it's triggers and it's performance, and they're holding the audience in the palm of their hand and they're all feeling something, and I'm only watching it and I'm feeling something. It's like I want to do that. That's incredible. And that was a common occurrence for a very long time. And then coming towards the end of primary school, just one summer, I was sat. My dad was outside, I think, filling the swimming pool or gardening or something, and the the garden was the other side of where the studio was. So you kind of open the studio window and there's the back garden. So I had the window open and I was sat at the computer and I was on YouTube and just listening to different bits of music. And then I found Green Day, Jesus of Suburbia, the one they did at the Milton Keynes Bowl in 2005. And that was the first introduction to Green Day I ever had. A song like Jesus of Suburbia, which if you don't know, if you're unfamiliar, is a 9-minute song. It's a 9-minute sort of Queen Bohemian Rhapsody rock opera-esque kind of a song, live in front of 65,000 people in Milton Keynes, all losing their minds. And Billy Joe, the lead singer, again has the audience in the palm of their hands, and they're raising their hands and they're singing along. And I was watching it, I was like, I have to do this. I feel it in my core that this is what I have to do, because this is incredible. So from a very young age, people say, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to play music. So I went through school that way, even right through primary school. I loved music lessons in school. I took keyboard lessons. I wasn't very good. I'm still not very good at keyboard to this day. I can't get the I
How
haven't
do
got
you
the
do with computers then?
Ah, yeah. Still not brilliant. I'm not very tech savvy. I can turn it on and I can tell you where the music is, but that's about it. I'm the most, I'm the least rather tech savvy 20-year-old you've probably ever met in your life. I'm such an old man when it comes to technology. Uh,
Oh
but
man, you never.
But yeah, I went all through primary school and then in secondary school, I obviously picked music as one of my options in year 9 and started leveling up a bit of like, okay, you can write songs and you can play the guitar to a decent level, but here's how you record songs and here's how to set up the microphone and record stuff into a DAW digital audio workstation again for anybody playing at home. Uh, uh, and that was the level up. It's like, oh, the things I write down, I can now record into something and I can hear it played back at me. And now I can analyze whether I think it's good or not and whether I need to change anything. And it's not just me playing something in my bedroom and hoping that one day it's good and I'll get to a point where I can show it to somebody. And I got a rather decent grade in music because I probably tried the hardest at it of all of my subjects and put my all into it. Probably could have done better in school across the board if I hadn't been so dedicated on it. But I was ferociously dedicated. If there is anybody watching that does happen to be around the picking options really important secondary school age, please try and devote your attention equally into all of your subjects. Don't do what I did, please. Be better than me. But I
You
put
don't
all
want to
my
end up in Birmingham like Jamie, for example.
yeah, I know. Otherwise, you could wake up one morning and you could be from Birmingham. This is how bad it can get.
Exactly, exactly.
Uh,
Yes.
and then it got to the point where like college was coming up and I could pick a music course at college and the dawning on me of like now I can do music every day. Like I don't have to turn up and pretend I really care about what verbs and adjectives are and what 2 plus 2 is. I can just go in and do music because it's something that I want to do. So yeah, I got to obviously I did music performance, so it was sort of every day go in with the guitar, get a brief into how roughly they want the lesson to go. A lot of the time it would be okay, listen to this song. Okay, this is a country and western song. Now make it punk rock or now make it thrash metal. Like, how would you go about changing the genre? And we do stuff like that. And we uh, formed a band with a very good group of guys. Happened to meet my best friend, who is basically my brother from another mother, for want of a better term, Mr. Paul Sampson, if he happens to be watching anywhere. Also a very good musician, by the way, with EPs coming out rather soon. Under Meadow, I think it will probably be. This man has had more aliases for his music than I've had hot dinners. But so much so that he was best man at my wedding, and that was incredible. But yeah, going in every day, playing music and honing the craft, learning how to be a better vocalist, a better guitarist, getting on stage, a decently sized stage in front of an audience that wasn't there just because all the kids are playing, so let's watch for 5 minutes, but actually turn to Sandra and have a conversation and play Candy Crush. There were people there and they watched and they responded, and we went on stage because in the college they have a big end of year performance where across the 2 years of the music performance, students they'd have a show, and the bands would come on and do a 15-20 minute set. And we went on and we did those songs and we played Green Day songs and we played Blink 182 songs, and I got to feel the one thing I wanted to feel my entire life. I stood on, well, I didn't stand, but you know what I mean. I sat on stage with a guitar, playing the songs that I'd listened to my whole life, and people were reacting to it and they were losing their minds. And I signaled for them to clap and they clapped, and I signaled for them to make noise and they made noise. And I finally got to experience what it's like to have a crowd and to make them feel something. And I was like, oh, this is incredibly addictive. This is amazing. So it was like, yeah, I want to carry this on to the full, and that's where, I was lucky enough to get triple merit in college. Again, I probably could have gone for distinctions, but at the time, we were in a band and we liked to cause a fair amount of mischief as a punk band would do, and spent maybe one too many evenings in the pub since we were of legal drinking age. But that's another story for another time.
30 years. And so, and then you moved on from there and you went on to be a music honours in songwriting at BIMM.
Yes, been Birmingham, a fine institution for anybody of the age to start thinking about universities, and that's where again it leveled up and the dream sort of became even more of a reality. So it went from just a kid who's into music that happens to pick up a guitar because his dad played guitar and learnt the chords and got better and figured out that he could sing semi decently and sang along to his favourite songs, and went through school of people going, oh, you're quite good, you are, to go through secondary school, to pick it as an option to learn about, okay, now we can record these ideas and we can add things to them. We can add drum beats and string sections and piano, and we can build the song. And we go, into college, where not only does the recording process step up, and now instead of just me, we do it with an entire band, and it's either a cover and we try and match the sound to the original recording, or we work on an original piece and record that and share it out as a band diplomatically, sort of how loud the drums get to be versus how loud the guitar is. Even though if anybody figures out with any diplomacy of how to do that evenly when you're in a band, please do let me know, or write it down. You'll be a very rich person. And as well as with a performing aspect, how to get more of a command on stage and how to hold people and make them feel something, and just how to put on a good show. And now we're in university where now you're the artist. You're not just somebody that plays songs and does the occasional bit of pub karaoke. You're the artist. What are you? Who are you? What's your message? What are you about? How are you going to get it out into the world? When you've got these songs that are recorded, they're not just going to sit on a hard drive. They're going to go through a publishing company. We're going to talk about what a release looks like, how you build it up, especially in the social media age, of what you do with the content to get that traction, to get that interest and that buzz building up to a release, and how to make that a success. And what does success look like to you? Does success mean millions of pounds and sold out stadiums and Ferraris and supermodels? Does it mean that maybe you can just have enough money to be able to go around your local supermarket and not have to calculate everything as you go around? Does it just mean that somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I really like that song? Defining what success is to you and the steps in order to achieve that. And it's like, okay, now I've got this material. Now I can do something with it. Now I can put it out into the world. And again, the teaching staff there, Johnny Amos, Mr. Johnny Amos, an incredible man, made uni a spectacular experience for me. He's a brilliant man. He's funny. He knows exactly how to teach and make it engaging. He's got podcasts of his own. He's got a book out. He's incredible. Go and type Johnny Amos into your nearest available search engine or etch it into some stone somewhere, and you'll find all the information about this man. But he was incredible and detrimental into helping me understand, now I've got this material, here's what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to build up to a release. I'm going to start with singles. I'm going to get traction. I'm going to make a video and split it off into several short form videos of teasers to get people interested, to get the word around, and to get the blueprint for a big release underway. And here's how I'm going to approach publishing companies. And if I work with someone on the album, like I have done with Paul, who I mentioned earlier, a number of times, he lends his voice and his production talents to many of the songs on the album. How we talk about split deals and how we can talk about that like adults and draw up contracts and things like that. So it's taken me to a point where now I can call myself an artist. Does everybody know my name? No. Am I making millions of pounds? No, I wish. But it's to the point where I have enough knowledge and I have enough material where I feel now I can call myself an artist that's ready to release music, that does have a single on Spotify, which anybody watching the podcast is more than welcome to check out. It helps. But, I am an artist that has a single out and another one coming out very soon and an album on the way, and I know how to do that properly. And now I can be a proper musician. I guess in some ways you can say I've achieved my dream. Personally, I think I'm a few years off. I mean, if I happen to be in a few years from now, in a sold out Wembley Stadium with thousands upon thousands of people singing a song back to me that I wrote in my bedroom, in unison, I'll probably say at that point I can die a happy man. It's not the money. I don't want thousands. Well, I don't want millions and millions of pounds in my bank. And again, enough money so that next week, if I want to go around Asda to do my weekly shop, I don't have to have trolley in one hand and calculator in the other. That would be nice. But I don't need Ferraris, and I don't need mansions, and I don't need to be on Jonathan Ross and everything. It's enough for me for how I felt about all of my inspirations growing up. They may be touched on something that was very true to me, something I can really relate to, something that helped me in a time where I really needed help. If one person in the world could come up to me and say that about my music, that's it for me. I'm done. That's it. I've done. Mission accomplished. That's all I need, really. And yeah, I think with everything I've learned through my life, I think I'm well on the way to being in a situation where that could genuinely become a reality, and I'm rather happy about that.
Brilliant. And before I go any further, I wanted to ask you a bit about so you're a musician. So what instruments did you start out trying before you settled on guitar?
Uh, just about everything. I want to say it started with those primary school keyboard lessons that went reasonably well. Again, I still don't have the patience. I can play triads. I can play very simple things, but I'm by no means a classically trained pianist by any means. I tried brass instruments, which I like the sound of, but I couldn't really get much control uh, over the instrument.
Oh, okay.
Tin whistle, again, that was another one in school where everybody would gather for the week tin whistle lesson.
Yeah.
I did try drums. I do play drums marginally. I mean, stating the blindingly obvious, but I obviously can't hit the bass drum because that's operated by a foot pedal.
I was going
But
to ask you about that.
yeah, but with having a dad as a drummer, obviously it is in the genes for me to be rather comfortable behind a drum kit. I managed to make beats work without the bass drum being there, or at least I think I do. I say that quite a lot because people always come up to me, and as soon as they find out I'm a musician, the first question always is, "Oh, are you any good?" And my response always is, "Well, that's not for me to decide. That's for the audience to decide. I I can tell you I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I'm the best guitarist in the world, the best songwriter, the best composer. But
You're not there yet.
me thinking that doesn't make me, and not necessarily just a great musician, even a good musician. What makes me a good musician is other people, is the audience liking what I'm doing. That makes me good. So it's never for me to decide. But yeah, went through a lot of different trial and error with instruments, but then I was always just guitar in general. Everything about it was just like this is the instrument. You know, I was schooled from a very early age on the great guitarists of the time, you know, Jimi Hendrix, Brian May, David Gilmour, Jimmy Page, all these phenomenal guitarists. And as much as people will probably sneer, this is probably a really controversial one while I'm talking about great guitarists. John Mayer as well, I think, doesn't get as much credit as he deserves for his ability on guitar, because he sits kind of more in a poppy vein. I don't want to say too much and have an opinion that's ever so slightly too controversial, because again, it's for everyone else to decide. It's
You're
subjective. You know, stereotypically what's been said, not by me, but what's been said about John Mayer is he is guitar music for middle-aged women. That's what's said, not by me. I just say that again, not by me.
Sure.
That's my opinion. That is just an opinion that's had about John Mayer and John Mayer's music, that it is rock for middle-aged women. But I think that is, quite frankly, an abhorrent opinion to take on a skill such as John Mayer. But again, that is another discussion for a different podcast where we only talk about guitar.
Okay, so you did that. So you picked the guitar out of everything else in the end. And you're a musician. So are you a singer as well as a musician? Would you class yourself as a singer?
Uh, Lots of people that know me would. I would class myself as a guitarist what does a bit of singing. I don't believe by any stretch of the imagination that I'm an absolutely fantastic singer. I believe as far as my original compositions go, I have a vocal style that suits the song that I write. But by no means am I a Freddie Mercury or an absolutely show-stopping, tear-jerking vocalist that's going to shake you to the very core with my vocal prowess. That's not. I try my best, and a lot of people say that my vocals are good enough for certain styles of music. I have been lead singers in bands. I currently sing all of my own original material, as well as obviously play the guitar and do the other instrumentally and mildly electronic bits and pieces on all of my songs. But yeah, on the whole, I'd say not necessarily guitarist and vocalists, more so a guitarist that sings a bit.
Okay. And actually, you've just shaved your beard off. You do look a bit like Freddie Mercury in that outfit as well.
Oh, thank you very much.
I don't know how much of that is a compliment, really, but yeah.
Big compliment. Fantastic vocalist.
Um,
Great. He's done
just have to
incredible.
sit down to a vest and wear an armband, and then you'll be all right.
Yeah, okay. When they do another Live Aid, because they're gonna do another one, there's gonna be some point where it gets to the like 70th or 80th anniversary of Live Aid, and they're gonna attempt to do it again with the modern artist. I know for a fact they are. I can see it coming. Call me the Simpsons, but I'm predicting that one now. And I bet you I'm not far wrong. So if that does come about, and I do happen to be very of a level of conceivable fame at that point where they do ask me to appear, just for you, I will do full Freddie Mercury cosplay just for you.
And I was paid to see that. Um, so how do you come up with your songs then? How do you just tend to write about anything and see what comes up?
Yeah, a lot of the time people sort of ask me, oh, what's the meaning behind that song or that line there? What's that about? And my answer really is I don't know.
All right.
It's one of them where certain things become apparent to me after it's finished. As like maybe it's about that. When it comes to writing, my brain goes on autopilot, so.
That's
I've
dangerous.
got guitar, for instance. It always starts with the guitar. So
Yeah.
I have a thing in mind of I'm really into Bon Iver, if you've ever heard of him.
Uh, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, he put out an EP version of his album that's coming out in a couple of months' time. I'm aware of the song. Uh, uh, and there was a song on there called Speyside Key, and
Okay.
it was very kind of that sort of that finger picky kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could sort of write something in that style. And that was sort of what came out. And it starts originally, I get a chord progression on the guitar that I'm happy with. And then I'll use the voice notes on my phone
All
and
right.
I'll set it up and I'll play and I'll just sing what comes out of my head. And
That's dangerous.
sometimes full songs come out and I listen to it back. There isn't really a problem that it flows fine, everything makes sense. Sometimes I have to add a line or take away a line or change a line or I always after I've done the demo recording for however long I'll sit and listen to it back and I'll write stuff out of lines that I really like, or I'll write out the whole thing and then I'll go, that doesn't really make sense. That was just a filler line because my brain wasn't working properly. And then I'll play back through the song with the lyrics that I like, and then my brain will kind of connect the dots, and eventually it will come up. But
Yeah.
it's there's no exact formula, there's no exact science. I'd say it always starts with guitar. Very rarely have I had a lyric idea before the instrumental is already there. It always starts with guitar because, well, like I said in the podcast, I'm a guitarist what sings sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and so it always starts there. That is the anchor point. But however long it takes, sometimes I've written a song. It's taken me the length the song is to write the song, or sometimes I've written half the song and then it takes me another couple of months of going away and doing some other stuff to come back and write the other half of the song, or you know
Yeah.
any number of ways, any ways you can think, but it always starts with guitar, and it's just what my brain comes up with, and then afterwards I go, oh, maybe that line I was talking about that I didn't realise at the time. Or I'll play it to Molly because Molly is always the person that hears it first. Whenever I finish writing something, I go, oh, what do you think of this? And then she'll sit there and she goes, I think that song is about, X, Y, and Z. For instance, that I've just played, you might find she seems to think that that's about a breakup. And I don't know, because to me, all I hear is, I don't hear the lyrics.
Yeah.
I hear the nice jangly guitar bit. The words are just the words. They happen. They're just on autopilot. I just enjoy the sounds the guitar makes, and then it's whatever. I don't think I'd ever do one of them things where I sit down with an interviewer or in front of a camera and explain the exact meanings to all of my songs. I think it's much better to put them out and let people attach their own experiences to it, because sometimes it's ruined it. I've listened to a song for so many years thinking the song is about one thing and it's something I've really connected to, and then
Yeah.
one day I found out in an interview that it's actually about something else, and then it's kind of ruined it because it's like, okay, I can't attach to it anymore because I don't identify with it as much. So I'm just going to leave it up in the air. It's like whatever you think it's about is what it's about. If you can find something in to relate to, then I've done my job there. And even if 9,000 people come out with sort of 9,000 different ideas of what the song is about, that's the point.
Yeah.
You take the song and you like the song, and you like the song because of how it makes you feel wherever on the emotion spectrum you'd put it, and that's the song's job. And if it does that, then I've done a good job.
As you mentioned, you're married.
I
At
am
a
married.
very young age of 23.
Got married. I was 22 when I got
Oh,
married.
22. Right, not 23 then.
I'm 23 currently. I'm
Yes.
24 in September.
Okay.
I'm losing track of time.
So, I mean,
Time.
obviously, a lot of people will say, "Blimey, that's quite young," but
If
you,
I had a pound for every person that found out I was married and then found out my age and said, "Wow, you married young," I would be a very, very rich man.
you would be exactly. And so, when did you first meet Molly?
When I was still in college.
Oh, right.
So I was doing the music course. She was on a photography course because she's a very skilled photographer. In fact, she has a degree in photography from Staffordshire University. So she's very clever and very wonderful and very fantastic and very good at what she does. Uh, and she's also a singer. At the time, she was doing a photography course, but she is a vocalist. She is a proper vocalist, unlike me, and she also plays guitar. And so it just so happened that at the end of year performance that I spoke to you a little bit earlier about, one of the bands that was doing it, the lead singer invited her to be one of the backing vocalists. And it was a case of we just happened to be in the same place at the same time. And she obviously saw our performance, presumably was quite taken by me, completely unbeknownst to me, because my brain was all over the place as it normally is on a performance day. I get kind of tunnel vision because I get focused in on a performance day where I sort of look through people because I'm that focused on, like, okay, where I'm going to be and what I've got to do, and don't forget this lyric and make sure you put this guitar part in. That I never really pay too much attention to my surroundings, but she apparently saw me. And after the performance, outside, we happened to get to talking. She said obviously that she was a musician and she had some original material that hadn't been recorded yet because she wanted another guitarist, because she wanted a certain type of feel on the song that she just didn't think she was able to do. So I was like, well, I can do it if you'd like. So we got into a studio and laid the tracks down and stuff. And there was one point where we were all really hungry after the performance because we'd spent all our energy, and went to the chip shop, and she accidentally ordered something that she didn't mean to order, which left her without any food. So I was just like, well, you can share mine. So we shared my food, which was a lovely moment, first interaction, and then did the recording, and just as you do, as you're around someone, you talk to them, we find you have stuff in common, and then from college it goes to you happen to be going in the same direction, and then you go, do you know what? I'm still hungry. We should probably go into a Mackey's, and you sit in Mackey's for way too long for anybody that ever needs to sit in Mackey's ever, and you have a very deep conversation about your families and all your good bits and your bad bits, and sooner or later you wind up thinking about them on a semi-constant basis, which turns into a constant basis, which eventually led to me going over to her house for music with the goodest of intentions, just to do music, which wound up in us kissing, and the rest is history from there, I suppose. And we moved into our first flat when I'd not long turned 18. Actually, a little bit before that, I was getting a bit ahead of myself. During that time when she left for uni, because she was in the year above me, so she went off to uni while I was still in second year of college. I used to go up to her uni halls and visit her once a month. During that time, a pregnancy happened. Eventually, it got to a point where Molly couldn't handle the living in halls with the, lots of people, and obviously pregnancy symptoms started kicking in, certain smells she couldn't bear, lots of people. She was living in a house with 11 other people. It was a lot. So we made the executive decision to move in together, sort of just around the time where lockdown had happened. We moved into our first flat in the April of 2020. And so we spent sort of just that whole lockdown just together, because you had to stay inside, and you could only be around, and everything just grew even further, and we grew to be even more in love and even more inseparable. And during that time, a proposal also happened. Then a wedding
How did you manage
happened.
to get down to one knee?
I
Did
was
you
I
not
was
just stand up?
I was already out my chair. She's not very happy with me about this still to this day, because she was expecting me to film it so she'd have the memory of it.
Okay.
I forgot to film it, so naughty me. But I have the visceral memory, so if she ever forgets, I can tell her. It was our anniversary, but our boyfriend girlfriend anniversary, because obviously we weren't married yet. And it was on the midnight. As it turned midnight, we'd had the ring for a while. I'd had it hidden away. And as it turned midnight on our anniversary, I kind of woke her up and said, "Would you do me the fabulous honour of marrying me?" And she was half asleep, and she sort of went, "All right then." But that was it, because it was the way where leading up to that, we'd been married in spirit for about a year anyway. It was one of those connections where it's like, with 3 or 4 months in, we were already basically married. We were always together. We were always on dates. We were always doing something. So it was just kind of a very natural progression. And then a wedding got planned. A wedding got had. It was a marvelous day, incredibly hot day, which I chose to wear an all black suit for. I will regret that for the rest of my life. I had to peel myself out of it at the end of the day, because it was in that June in 2023. It was the 16th of June, so it was, when we had that sort of real big stretch of heat in June a couple of years ago. I melted beyond belief. And from then on, we unfortunately, where we lived, because we were private renting, we got a Section 21, which meant we didn't do anything wrong, but the landlord just wanted to put it back up on the market. I'm assuming because he wanted to charge more rent than he knew we could afford. Uh, and then went through OTs and got where we're living.
Where you are now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got married. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much. Nearly 2 years.
A bit too late for that. Congratulations, but there you go.
Ah, right, it's there. That's enough. It doesn't matter how late it is. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. So the the proposal was well, very romantic by the sounds of it. So brilliant.
Well, I tried my best. I can be romantic when I need to be.
When you need to be, yeah, which is very little, isn't it?
Yeah. So mo most of the time I just have to be there and occasionally put up a shelf, and that's enough.
Yeah, a shelf that you can reach.
Yeah, which there's not a lot of those at the moment, but we're getting there.
No.
The
Ah,
the more we decorate, the closer we're getting.
oh. Yeah. Molly is also disabled of sorts.
Yes, she has FND. She has functional neurological disorder where signals misfire in her brain that can lead to uh, seizures and chronic fatigue. And she also has hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which obviously affects your collagen levels, which is, your collagen sort of in everything, and sort of our entire body across the board is hypermobile. So at any given moment, anything that's ever so slightly too strenuous, knees come out of place, elbows, any joint at any given time can either come fully out of place or subluxate, which is like a partial dislocation. It can happen to her spine and has done before. She used to work but had to stop working due to a condition. She's now an ambulatory wheelchair user, which if nobody watching knows what ambulatory means, it just means part-time. Sometimes she can still walk, but on days where she has very low energy or she's just in a flare, either with her FND or ADS or both, because sometimes they can just both happen at the same time, which is, marvelous. Uh, she uses the chair. She has a second-hand chair that she bought at the moment because, as I mentioned earlier, she's a photographer and she did some wedding photography and used the money from that to buy a second-hand wheelchair. She's currently waiting for a wheelchair assessment. She has looked into, because we went to NADEX a few weeks ago, and she spoke to some of the RGK guys there about the possibility of having electrical adaptions like the power wheels and stuff, and sort of how much that will cost, because that would really help her, because sometimes there's limited movement, she'll lose feelings in her hands or her legs or whatever it may be. So we've kind of got the round figure. She currently has a GoFundMe set up. She's making regular daily TikTok content of tips and tricks from somebody that
So
is
that
in, somebody that's in her position, and kind of the things she's found helpful. And she then sort of, for the people who are nice enough to either just view and engage and push the videos out to more people, or people who are fortunate enough and kind enough to donate, her sort of gift in return is those sort of tips and tricks for anybody that's struggling with certain things, either have been in a wheelchair for a long time and have just not found the information, or are in a position much like herself and they're recently diagnosed and new to start using a chair and how to navigate that.
and so for a while you both had a TikTok together. You both had a TikTok account together, and then obviously Molly took it as her own, and you've got your own since.
Yes.
So
It's
Bridgman's to Molly, and then
yeah, there was no creative differences there. It's just always I'm 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 awkward. I don't really like being in front of the camera too much. It's something even in music I've had to get used to in the day and age we live in. Because obviously when I was little and I was talking to musicians when I was younger, I learnt the old-fashioned way of how you graft in music is you get your demo tape together and you send it out to record stations and you spend years and years playing in dive bars with nobody listening to you and eventually you get to where you want to be. But I'm still getting used to being in a technological age and having to talk to people through the internet and be on camera and learn how to behave properly. So eventually, I think it just got to a point where, for Molly's standpoint, for just specifically for her FND and her EDS, she decided to kind of retake that for her own. But no, there's no bad blood. We're still very happy. There's no dispute going on there. It's just I have my thing where I do music things. She tries to educate as many people as humanly possible about FND and EDS and about everything by that, and they both do reasonably well.
I do. And I will put up here the links or the screenshots of TikToks here. So you'll be able to see. So you mentioned you've got a kid. I love your daughter. And
But wouldn't change it for the world. She's absolutely phenomenal. She's 4 now. She'll be 5 this year. She's not long started school. She started school back in September. She's bubbly. She's bright. She's hilarious. I do have to double check sometimes with how wonderful she is if I really am her dad. Sometimes I go, "There's no way. You're far too wonderful to be mine." But no.
I was going to say, are you sure she's yours? Um, no, she definitely is. And
Jeremy Kyle.
yeah, yeah, of course. With delighted to test. So with that, the she's doesn't carry any of yours or Molly's conditions. She's well normal in brackets maybe.
We think there's a possibility that she might have gotten EDS from her mum because she started complaining in recent weeks about pains in her joints. But that's to be seen. We're going to keep an eye on that and investigate where we need to. But on the whole, she is, quote unquote,
Yeah,
she's just happy and healthy 4-year-old.
brilliant. That's what we like to hear, isn't it? And what have I got written down here now? I can't read my own writing now.
You must have been a doctor in a past life.
Well, I must. Um. Oh, life now. That's what it is. Before we get into that one though, I so we should just make very clear. I don't say at the start because we're too busy talking about whatever. But I met you through Alex, whose podcast is already out, and of course you can watch it on the podcast playlist that you're watching this one on. Alex Mackenzie. Um, I don't know how it happened that me and you got in contact. I think Alex reposted one of your videos onto TikTok, and it was, of course, at the time, Gavin and Stacey Christmas special
Yes,
last year.
yeah, the big finale,
Yeah,
which
the
I'm
big
sure
finale,
everybody very fondly.
the best finale ever. Um,
Yes, I think it will genuinely go down in history as one of the best finales ever.
it will be, yes. And so tell me a bit about Gavin and Stacey and what happened at Christmas.
Yeah, it was me and Molly have always been a big fan, right, from, even before we were together. We were both just fans of the show and obviously really excited that the finale is coming up. And I am terrible sometimes, if we're, especially not so much if we're watching it live, but if we're watching something uh on Netflix or whatever. There are many streaming services out there, not just Netflix. Make that clear. If ever it has to be paused to get something to eat, something to drink, go for the toilet, whatever it is, the first thing I'll do as soon as somebody leaves the room is I'll just have a, and it so happened that we were watching the old episodes leading up to watching the finale.
Oh, right, so you're watching series 1 to 3 in
Yeah,
preparation for the
we were building up so we could watch all the way
and then
through.
the shit Christmas special in 2020, 2019. So
I didn't mind that, I thought that was good.
speaking of acting a bit like, oh, hello, like a posh voice for her at the time partner.
Yeah, but it did the job, didn't it? Because it made you hate her for
Spoilers,
playing.
but anyone hasn't seen it yet.
Spoilers.
Think
Careful, but click away now if you haven't watched it yet.
of it. Yeah,
Click.
carry on, sorry.
But yeah, I think it just happened to be one of those moments. It was coming towards the end of an episode. Molly got up to get a drink. I happened to have a guitar in my hand. So, I think the theme song. I think I can play that, and figured it out. And Molly was like, "Do you know what would be really good, considering the finales like coming out, is if you did a cover of the theme song, because obviously it's really popular, so people might like to see a cover." And I was very apprehensive at first because whenever I play anything, again, because I'm an old man and I don't see anything from a sort of technological standpoint, or at least a content creator standpoint, because I'm not a content creator in the slightest. I have infinite respect for people that are full-time content creators. I could not do what you do. But I was just like, I was just messing about with it. I was just seeing if I could figure out the theme song there. This is like, yeah, but what are you going to lose if you do it? Like, is it really going to be that difficult for you to just play the song and for me to film it? I was like, okay, then we'll do it. So I listened to the whole song through a couple of times, wrote out the lyrics and put them on the floor to give me an idea. We recorded the whole song. We posted the whole cover on YouTube. We got just the main bit of the theme song for the show, the "Tell Me Tomorrow," just that bit, and that's what got put on TikTok. And it was just, we happened to be very fortunate and have a lot of very supportive friends, like Alex and Chloe and many others, that were absolutely brilliant in terms of liking it, commenting on it, sharing it, using the sound. And then eventually it got to you, and I believe it got to a point where you asked Alex if you thought rather, I can do grammar. I clearly haven't had enough cups of coffee. If you thought I would be willing to do the podcast, and here we are.
Here we are, 4 months later.
From that one video that did ever so slightly well and terrified me a little bit when I watched the numbers climb. But it does panic me. I do have that kind of inner fight within myself to want people to see stuff. But when I see that people can see stuff, the panic grows, because now I go, oh, what if it's not good enough? What if somebody rips it to pieces? But yeah, I'm sure I'll get better at that over time.
And did I hear it got into the show or something?
Uh,
I think
it
Alex
was,
said something about that.
it was reposted a lot, and it was used as sound a couple of times, but I'm not what it's doing today. I don't have much idea about. If any, see, this is terrible, because I'm so bad at checking how things are doing.
Yes, you
I
are.
could be.
Yes, you are. And I'm calling you out on that.
I could be famous as we speak and have absolutely zero idea about it.
No.
Where is it?
Um, um,
1,500 views, just over.
um, you right?
Mm.
So, moving on a little bit. You're on YouTube. You've been on YouTube for a while, haven't you?
I have. I dip in and out because again, I'm terrible at kind of
Yeah.
going. Okay, turn the camera on, press record. Uh, so I have times where I'm really on it and there's stuff every day, and then I take a couple of months break, and then I come back to it. So there's a decent amount for anybody kind of discovering me for the first time. There is a good handful of things across multiple platforms on YouTube. There's a handful of covers. There's the single on Spotify. There's another single on the way very soon. There's an album that will be out in a couple of months. Uh, on Instagram, there's a lot of old Instagram lives saved to my feed where I used to do a lot of other covers and a handful of originals, but it's willing my brain to be in the point where like okay with this album on the way and the single coming out, it's right. Consistency has to be there has to be a plan of
Consistency is key.
regular posting. Consistency is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we will get there. I promise. I'll try my best for anybody
Hey,
that's
you
actually
will get there.
excited about it.
Yeah. And we're getting to the end, eventually. So, first things first would be the future. I mean,
I've got my car now. I've had a good handful of lessons. I'm still in the process of
Bobby was
lessons.
telling me, well done.
Yep, I had one on Monday. My next lesson's on Friday. I've got my actual test booked for July.
You do.
So fingers crossed, considering I've got a very good driving instructor. I'm one of those very few statistically that managed to pass first time. That would be absolutely wonderful. But yeah, and so we'll be kind of set then if we can get the house finished off. Then we've got, married, child with, more on the way, animals, car, either some form of job or the music taking off. It's a case of, I'm just as devoted at the moment because I'm not in a place where I can just forget looking for any kind of normal work and focus. So, like 100%, I'd say I'm focusing 90% on the music and then 10% to just, even if it's a position just in the meantime while I'm building up the catalogue. But the plan still is for the music to take off and for me to hopefully, fingers crossed, be a musician forever, and then just live, I suppose. That's that, and do the school runs, and moan at them about their own work and fit more shelves. And
So, final question before we kind of like finish off. And
final question, good sir. I will try to answer it to the best of my ability.
of course, all you have done for this whole 2 hours, an hour and a half. So,
Hmm.
anyway, what tips or advice would you give to someone that has the same condition as you?
It sounds really cheesy, but
Go on then.
give up. You're gonna have struggles. Sometimes it's gonna seem like certain things are impossible, and certain places you want to be in life at some points can feel slightly unattainable. But as long as you don't give up, you keep trying, you don't shy away from help, because I have a lot in my life. I've shied away from help at points. I think I really needed it. And I'd say for anybody else, help is there. Help is there more now than ever. When I was young and there wasn't a lot of disabled people in the media and, portrayed in the world for other people to see, that is the case today more than ever. We have things like Nadex, you turn on the TV, you watch the latest drama, there is somebody with a disability. There are people like you out there that you can now actively see. And again, another corny one, if you sat watching something and somebody happens to be in a wheelchair, you have to think, well, if they can do it, if they can be in a chair and have hardships and face struggles and obstacles, but they could overcome it and they could be a good enough actor to be on my TV right now, what is stopping me from either being like them or getting into music like I did or becoming a marine biologist or whatever it is that you desire to do in your life? Understand that whatever task you undertake is out the gate going to have a list of obstacles, but go in with a positive mindset that you're going to figure out those obstacles and overcome them rather than just see them and sit there and panic. Put your full focus into it, work out how to overcome the obstacles, because you can do it. You have the brain power, you have the strength, you're stronger than you think you are. And if you need help, help is not a dirty word. It's not something you have to reduce yourself to ever. If help is offered, take it, because imagine where it could lead you if you just accept that little bit of help at a point where you really needed it.
And that's it. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And
And there's more.
there's more.
So this is going to be my newest single that's going to be released from my upcoming album. I don't have a date as of yet, but check the social media and you will be informed as soon as possible. It's a song that's called You Might Find, and it goes a little something like this. Cold river is deeper than it once was. Your glimmer is dimmer than it once was. Watch the leaves fall to the ground. Stand still and you might drown. And I would play the clown just to keep you around. And if you try, you might find your way home. Words on paper, it won't do us any favors. Drag your weight, call it off and try it later. They're just words, they don't mean really anything. And if they could only see you hold the world on crooked strings. And if you try, you might find your way home. Ooh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The cold river, we stand still in embrace. Waters calm and still, but we feel that we're stuck beneath the waves. But if you just hold my hand, I will try my best to stand. And if we could reach the land, maybe I could understand. If you try, you might find your way home.
Voice. Let's go. Voice FM.